Working out of a CQB arena like we are here, we get a lot of people, or in fact the vast majority of people that come in are looking for guns that are optimized for this environment. Now, playing in CQB generally means that you're going to be playing in very close quarters. That's what the CQ stands for. So having guns that are a fairly short length is optimal for this environment because you're going to be maneuvering through very tight quarters, and having longer barrels generally is a little clumsier. The obvious advantage of longer barrels is they're more accurate, but in a CQB environment, your average shot is going to be, 25, 30 feet away, so you really don't need a longer barrel in order to take advantage of this particular environment. I know a lot of people want to go to pistols in the CQB environment, but the obvious downfall with that is that you have a very limited magazine capacity in most cases, and you're also using gas, which can tend to get a little bit pricey. And there are, of course, a couple of things you can do about that, but if you want to get something that is, in my opinion, optimized for the CQB environment, you may want to consider something like these guns that have come out recently from G&G. The first one I'm going to talk about here, this is the G&G FireHawk. This is basically based off of the CM16 combat machine, upper and lower receiver, which is pretty much a standard M4, M16 style receiver. It's got a very short barrel. It's probably only about maybe a 3-inch barrel, and it has this amplifier on the end of it, which of course is removable, and it comes in most cases with a all black aluminum amplifier. The one that they usually attach to it is a plastic one, but it's fairly simple to remove it. Of course, if you buy it from us, we will take it off for you free of charge, but if you're one of the guys that are not in the local area, you're kind of on your own for removing your flash hider / amplifier. One thing I will tell you about this particular gun is it's probably the loudest AEG that we've heard here in the arena. We could actually test it out with a decibel meter and give you a rough decibel reading on these things. So if you like guns that are fairly loud, this would be a good choice. The other gun that G&G has come out with even more recently is the ARP9. This is based on a modified M4 receiver. It's got sort of beefier flanges and stuff on it, so it's not a traditional M4. I've seen a lot of these out on the market in the real gun market where they're using either M&P mags or Glock mags or a number of other magazines that are out there. So the concept with these is that you're using high capacity pistol magazines in a carbine. Now, being an airsoft gun, you don't get as much of the advantages. In fact, there's more of a disadvantage to using this style of magazine because they're quite a bit more expensive. When you're looking into buying replacement mags for an M4 style magazine, you're looking at magazines roughly in around the $20 price range. If you're getting mid caps, they're about half of that, they're about $10. If you're getting magazines for the ARP, you're looking at magazines that are about twice as expensive. And these have a 300 round capacity. These come with also a 300 round capacity. So the capacity is about the same for the two of them. These are just a lot less expensive and you can get more of them. If you buy the G&G magazines, not just the off-brand aftermarket magazines, you'll probably spend about the same amount of money because G&G brand magazines are pricier, but they are a lot better made. And I can say from experience here with the guns that we rent out, typically we get twice the lifespan out of a G&G magazine than we'll get with, say, an aftermarket magazine. One thing that's nice about these is that you have more compatibility with other guns that are out there. So if you're playing with a group of people and you run out of ammo, usually somebody's got an extra M4 magazine on them, where with the ARP9, although these are becoming more popular, it's a little less likely that you'll be able to get an extra magazine from just a teammate. And the magazines are not quite as prolific as the M4 magazine, so you have a few less choices. One nice upgrade to the ARP9 is the drum magazine that's come out with this recently. So if you want to go to even a higher capacity, G&G does offer a drum mag that fits into the ARP9. Now, one thing that a lot of people may find either a positive or a negative, depending on your personal opinion, is the ARP9 comes with an M-LOK style rail on it versus the FireHawk comes with a quad Picatinny rail on it. So for the sake of economy, the FireHawk is probably the better choice because you don't have to buy additional rail segments versus the M-LOK. You're going to be spending extra money if you're going to be positioning M-LOK rails on it. And if you're getting like mil-spec aluminum, you know, ones that are actually forged aluminum, they could be 20, 25 bucks a piece. You could probably find some cheaper aftermarket ones out there. So if you want to save a few bucks, you may want to consider going with the FireHawk. One nice thing about the FireHawk, going back to this, is that it has more of a traditional style M4 stock versus the this one, ARP, has the PDW style stock. So you have a little more battery compartment room into it. The ARP is going to come, if you buy the combo, it comes with a 7.4 volt battery that is 800 milliamps versus the FireHawk. I've been very easy to get larger batteries into this. I can fit an 11.1 nunchuck. This is a 1200 milliamp, so this is a much larger battery with a longer playtime because it is a longer compartment and the battery can fit into there pretty efficiently. The problem I've heard with a lot of people complaining about the ARP is the limited battery space in there. So to get to the battery, you remove the stock off of it, and then you can pull up the little end cap, and that gives you your battery compartment. Now, another thing I should say about the ARP is that this has a MOSFET in it. So your circuit board is going to take up a lot of that room inside of the back of this battery compartment. So trying to fit a battery and the MOSFET in there is a little bit of a challenge. There is a product that's out on the market for the ARP9 specifically. There are ones out there for other like Honey Badger style guns that use PDW stocks. This is a BEU, which is a battery extension unit made by AirTech Studios that just simply clips on to the back of the battery compartment and essentially extends the battery compartment out a little bit further so that you can fit a little bit of a longer battery. And if you're considering getting this gun with the standard stock on it, you may want to consider getting one of those battery extension units. I personally use a gun with a PDW stock on it, and I've extended mine a little bit and it works fine. But for all intents and purposes, if I had to deal with a gun on a regular basis with getting the battery in and out of it, I kind of prefer this. The FireHawk, you just simply pull the stock off the back of it, and that gives you access to the buffer tube, which the battery just slides down inside of the buffer tube. It's fair to note that the ARP comes with a MOSFET and the FireHawk comes with a standard traditional mechanical trigger in it. So I know there's some people are out there that are really big proponents of the MOSFET over the mechanical trigger. I've seen anecdotal evidence that they may last a little bit longer, but honestly, for the number of guns that we've serviced that have MOSFETs versus mechanical triggers, it's about even money. So if you're buying a gun with a MOSFET with the thought that you're going to get a longer lifespan out of your trigger system, I really haven't seen anything to fully back that up. The nice feature about the MOSFET is you can program it to do 3-round bursts and full auto, and it also has a voltage monitoring feature on it that monitors the battery. So if your battery drops below a certain voltage, it'll shut itself off. So if you're using something like a LiPo battery, which you cannot run completely dead, the gun will shut itself off automatically, and that eliminates the possibility of damaging your batteries. Although if you got half a brain, you just need to listen to your gun, and when you hear the rate of fire starting to slow down or it sounds like the gun is laboring, it's pretty obvious that it's time to go ahead and swap your battery out. If you have young kids that are playing with it, sometimes they're just how young kids are, they're just generally knuckleheads. That's a good feature, because if you're a parent and you're constantly spending $35 on batteries because your kid doesn't remember to stop shooting the gun, it's certainly a great idea. One thing you may want to consider with these guns, for what I've seen a lot more, besides the proliferation of PDW style guns here at the arena, is the use of tracer units with PDWs. It's probably one of the best investments that I've made as far as enhancing the gameplay and just making it overall more interesting, more exciting. You can actually see where your shots are going. It's harder for people out there to cheat because you can actually see the BBs ricocheting off of them. This is the Battle Owl Tracer. This is made by G&G, a very good match for the PDW guns because it's a fairly small unit. There are other small tracers that are out on the market, some made by Ace Tech and other ones by other companies out there. I have to say, this is the best as far as the overall quality of it and how well it, its durability is versus the other units. I've seen a lot of people that are using Ace Techs here and other ones that they're made out of softer metal, and the plastic on them is very brittle and generally tends to fracture easily. The Battle Owl, this is one that we use as a rental, so this is in use 3, 4, 5 days a week. And aside from taking a couple of hits to our little decal that we had on it, you can see there's very little damage to it, where if you look at an Ace Tech, they usually have visible dents in them. So you may want to consider something like that. So those are two basic packages that are available from G&G. We obviously are a big fan of G&G here because we use them as our rental guns here. We've got about 30 to 40 guns that are in service here that are usually out on the field 3, 4, 5 days a week, and I can say from personal experience that they're extremely dependable, very easy to work on, and highly compatible with aftermarket and replacement parts. So that's always a big plus to me. I wouldn't want to, if I was only owned 1 or 2 guns, I would want to make sure that those guns are serviceable and will be able to get them up and running should something happen to them. I personally have, a truckload of guns, so it's not as big of an issue for me. But if I was an average player that only had 1 gun to play with, having that gun be dependable is certainly a really good selling feature. Now, if you're a little more adventurous, you can get into modifying the guns to get, your own personal idea out of it. This is one that I personally use, which is, once again, it's very similar to actually both of these in some respects. It uses the PDW stock. This is a CM16 receiver. The only major change I made was to have a much larger handguard on it. That way my tracer unit actually fits inside of the handguard, so it sort of protects the tracer from taking more of a beating than it needs to. And it's got a little bit of a longer handguard on it, where these generally have a little bit of a shorter handguard. The barrel lengths are about the same, but it just gives you more to grab onto on the gun. So if you're interested in something like this, you can also contact us. We can set up some pricing on it if you want to custom design your gun, which is a really great feature about the G&G guns, because I can get a amazing variety of stuff that we can do to these guns to give you exactly what you want. My philosophy on buying these guns is to get the gun that is as close to what you're looking for out of the box, so you're only doing a minimal amount of customizing, because it changes the price of the gun exponentially as you start adding aftermarket stuff onto it. But on the other hand, to me, it's one of the most fun things about airsoft guns, is customizing them and sort of making it into your own personal design. So those are the basics. Come on down to Replay Airsoft if you want to try them out. We have rental versions of most of these guns available, as well as the tracer units, so you can take them out on the field and get a feel for them. And if you want to do custom mods to them, we can talk about that too. So come on down. You can look us up on our website at replayairsoft.com, or come on into the showroom. And until then, don't let the bastards get you down.